It is Pause and a Pint Wednesday, and I want to tell you a little story from my past of how I learned the painful lesson of never to launch a business without validating it with the market first. I learned this the hard way. It cost me £25,000 of debt at the age of 23, and it took me until 28 to pay that off. It nearly put me off entrepreneurship forever. It was a painful and humiliating experience, and I want to tell you how to avoid it. When I was 23, I just graduated university studying illustration at the University of Middlesex. I wanted to do something creative with my time. I love drawing, I love designing, and I knew at the time that people were making a hell of a lot of money printing custom-made t-shirts, selling them and creating these really edgy brands, and I thought, that's it, that is what I want to go all in on. I'd never designed a t-shirt before, I'd never printed a t-shirt before, I hadn't run any fashion-based business before, I'd never run a website before, I'd never built a website before, and I'd never run a business before either. However, I fell into a program where the government decided to be able to give me a startup loan to build my dream. I thought this was going to be easy. I could design, I could develop, I could learn all this, and it was this fun adventure. Load of money in the bank, was living in a university house in Hendon, North London, and I converted our spare bedroom in that uni house into my printing studio. Spent about 12.5 grand on all of the equipment. I was meeting with retailers and suppliers of wholesale clothing, and I thought I'd landed on this idea of this edgy, eco-sustainable brand where we were going to do high-end packaging, we were going to be really creative, we were going to have limited drops, and everything was going to be easy. I felt if I just launched something cool, the market would see it and I would get the win. However, that's not how it played out. I launched a series of t-shirts. I tried to learn how to do social media. I tried to learn how to build an e-commerce store all at once. I had no expert help and outside advisors. It was my first business. And I'm really thankful. My family was super supportive. They bought up all my t-shirts. They bought up everything that I launched. Bless their souls, because they weren't cheap and they were paying full price for them. There's a rule in my family of no mates rates that we stuck to. And that was amazing. But I never made a sale to a complete stranger in the entirety of that business. I did events, I did sponsorship deals, I did everything that I thought we should, but the designs weren't great, if I'm honest with you. They were very niche, they were very specific, and I didn't do any pre-validation of the branding, of the design. I didn't validate the name, that people were resonating with it. I didn't validate the designs we had where I could have seen which ones people would be most likely to buy and then invest in making those. I went all into the doing, because the doing, it felt like the work. It felt like I had to buy the equipment and I had to print the t-shirts, and I needed to be spending late nights pulling down the printing press and printing these t-shirts again and again and again, and having stacks of stock. But actually, that's not how I would launch a t-shirt business today. If I had it now, I would have used that money to pay some proper designers, get some consultations, work with a proper logo and brand designer, and I would have launched a pre-sales waitlist campaign to generate demand and validate that demand is there for my product or my service before I invested in any equipment, because I could have spun everything else down very easily. But after nearly a year of trying to scale and grow this company and not making any sales, reality hit. I needed to go and get a real job. I became a barista in a company called Yumcha in London, and that was the end of the dream. The company slowly faded out, and I was left with the repayments of the loan. Right, the government did very well out of their loan on me because they got every penny back plus interest, but that company failed, and it took me until 28 to pay that off. And it was 2 years later that I launched Minimal Viable Launch, because I suddenly had the breathing room again in my salary. My career had improved, and I didn't have these loan payments, which were pretty hefty, if I'm honest with you, hanging around my neck. But it's taught me an invaluable lesson. Any business you can think of, there is a way to do pre-validation and pre-sales. And entrepreneurs or people, I'm going to call them entrepreneurs harshly, who come to me and they kick and they scream when I give them advice and say, don't launch this, go sell it first. Don't build it, sell it. Don't build it, sell it. And they say, that's impossible. Richard Branson launched an airline company without any money. He did pre-sales and agreements with Boeing in order to lease an old 747 and fill that plane with the tickets before it launched. If he can launch an airline with pre-sales, which I think we'd all agree is a really capital-intensive business, you can launch your software business with pre-sales. You can launch your AI project with pre-sales. You can launch any business you can think of with pre-sales. It just requires you to ask a bigger question. And instead of resisting this idea, look at the way that every single successful founder operates after their second and third business. They all do pre-sales because they've all been burnt before by building things that no one wants. It is the biggest reason that software companies collapse. It is the reason we have so many pivots in the world of software, because people don't do pre-sales and validation. Learn from my £25,000 mistake, channel Richard Branson and other incredible entrepreneurs. Sell before you build. You can do it. You just need to show enough of a vision to get people excited, to make them believe, put their hands in their pocket, to give you some money so that you can fund the build of your dream. Anyway, cheers everybody.